coming. It is my pleasure to introduce Mark Roberts. And you saw in the program his bio, which talks about his long career with marketing and sales, the awards he's won, the books he's written, and the business that he started. But what I want to tell you about is the Mark that I met at a time in my life when I was in transition between jobs, and like many other people with me, Mark volunteered and does volunteer his time to help job seekers with that process of learning how to sell yourself, because that's what finding a job is all about. And particularly at a time that's really hard for most people when you're job searching. And he helped coach me through a final interview that was a bit of a stretch for me, where I had some feelings of, am I really up to all of this type of thing? And really helped me to get through that process. So he has a big heart, he serves a lot, and I turn it over to you.
Wow, that's so hard to follow. Before I get started, you were easy to coach. Everybody has a gift, right? A lot of times we overlook our own gifts. I believe everybody's destined for greatness. They just need to find their greatness. And it wasn't hard to coach you, right? You have so much to give. So, my name is Mark Allen Roberts. My mom loves it when I use my middle name. But have you ever Googled your name? Okay, so if you ever want to find me after this, if you enjoy what we're doing, I'm not this guy. This is Mark Roberts, the world's most famous streaker. He has been through Wimbledon, Super Bowls. He streaks professionally, okay? That's not me, in no way does that help me, right? I'm also not this guy. Mark Roberts makes collectible fairies. So if you're looking for Mark Roberts online, please use my middle name. It'll make my mom happy and you'll find me, right? I'm also not Mark Roberts, the producer of the Mike and Molly show. If I was, I'd be in Aruba right now, right? What I have done is I've written a couple books. I'm from Stark County, by the way. I raised my kids here. And then for about 10 years, a company brought me to Arizona to help them grow. I help companies grow really fast. If you know somebody that wants to grow really fast, whether it's a business for profit, I work with churches, I work with nonprofits. Nonprofits and churches actually get a lot better rate because I just like helping them. But I figured out a formula over the last 37 years that always works. I have a coach, she's been with me 30 years. And her name is Dr. Joy Schwartley, Dr. Joy, right? And she said, I'll bet you every company you've helped had the same model. I'm like, it can't be. I've helped food companies, I've helped machine shops, I've helped manufacturers, and sure enough, she was right. So I wrote a book, Driving Explosive Growth. I have some copies here. For audience participation, you will be rewarded, okay? And then after I wrote that book, people said, this whole voice of customer thing really has me intrigued. What's that all about? I've never heard of that before. Voice of customer has been always my secret sauce. When a company wants to grow really fast, if I interview your customers, if I interview people that you've quoted but did not win, if I interview people that you used to sell but haven't sold in 8 months, we're going to get all kinds of actionable insights. And we're going to talk a little bit later. So again, I'm an author. I live in Green now, but my passion is just helping businesses grow. Like I put it in my book. It's like my ministry, right? Once you've grown a couple companies really fast, it's just such a rush. By the way, I'm so thankful the breathing exercise was in this room before me, right? Because you get a little jazzed before you talk. This is the calmest I've been in years, right? So again, I help businesses grow. Help me understand, in this room, what kind of people do we have? Do we have any like manufacturing businesses? Okay, a couple there. How about nonprofits? Okay, educational, anybody? What other kind of businesses are there? What did I miss? Professional, okay, like what?
CPAs.
Oh, cool. I just connected with a local CPA firm. They want to start helping their companies grow strategically. with revenue, and I just started helping them. Help me understand, when your year started out, everybody was very optimistic at the end of 2023. 2024 is going to be such a great year. How's it tracking for you? Just show of hands. It's tracking what we expected. Things are going like what I expected. It's better than what I expected. Awesome. I love seeing that. It's a little less than what we expected. A couple people. And then the last one keeps coming up in every meeting I'm having with CEOs today is revenue and gross profits are less than we planned. And what's happening is the impact of inflation and not being able to pass along those inflationary costs is impacting both revenue as well as gross profits. Anybody feeling that pinch yet? Couple people? Okay. I just like to get a feel for what's going on because I'll spend more time on what you guys want because I'm here for you today. I put together a bunch of slides, but I really want you to leave here with 2 or 3 actionable insights, okay? The content we're talking about is ending strong, but I should have added something. I should have said stronger. When we helped the plastics company go from 10 million and we sold it for 300 million in East Canton, our CFO kept saying something every day. We're stronger today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow we're going to be stronger than we are today. So let's change the title of this from ending 2024 strong to ending 2024 stronger. So how can we end stronger? Well, if you're for profit, strong revenue, strong growth, increase in gross margins, improved customer satisfaction, and improved employee engagement. Would you say employee engagement is an all-time high or an all-time low right now? So you're shaking your head.
Yeah.
Low. Anybody else agree with her? Employee engagement? Low? Don't know? Don't care?
I mean, we just did an employee engagement survey at our company. I mean, we're tracking kind of middle-ish, so not necessarily high, but then not necessarily low.
Well, you can tell my kids are grown and out of the house. I have way too much free time. Employee engagement is at an all-time record low. Depending upon the report you read, 60% of employees are not engaged. So if you're a nonprofit, if you're in education, if you're in other types of businesses, this applies to you too. 60% are not engaged. They're showing up, they're doing the bare minimum they can to get by. They're not engaged, they're not trying, they're not stretching, they're not challenging, but 20% are disengaged. They call it quiet quitting. They've mentally quit. So now you're smiling. Oh, you've already talked about this?
Oh, I mean, I feel like our age group is like, this is like all over TikTok, quiet quitting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you can tell my age group doesn't look at TikTok, right? It's like I tell my kids, my kids text me. If I want to really aggravate them, I call them back, right? Yeah, I'm kind of old school with that. But no, quiet quitting is really happening. And think about efficiency for your business, whether you're a for-profit, nonprofit. We got to get the most out of every asset that we have. So how do we improve engagement? And if you're a nonprofit, how do we improve customer satisfaction? You'd be shocked how many people I work with want to improve satisfaction, but they just don't ask their customers. That's why I wrote a book on it, right? How to do voice of customer research. I'm also a scaling up coach. Has anybody ever heard of the book Scaling Up? Highly recommend it. I recommend it if you have a for-profit business, if you have a nonprofit business. I help churches with this. I'm looking at helping the chamber with this. It's a methodology to help you strategically grow something. And it's written by an MIT professor, so it feels kind of like a textbook. So if you're in education, you're going to love this one, right? But it has all these templates and charts and exercises. But what I like most about it was he boiled it down to 4 things to grow. You need people, strategy, execution, and cash. And by the way, I gave a PDF of this entire presentation to the association, and you're going to be able to get a copy of it. So I'd rather you participate. But how brilliant, 4 things. Oh, it can't be that simple, Mark. When I meet with CEOs, it's like, well, here's our to-do list, and it's like 30 things, right? No, it's 4 things. You get people right, you don't have a problem with cash. Your customers are happy, business, you're not getting churn. But anyways, I want to kind of walk through each one of those. I don't have time to give you an entire scaling up training. That typically takes a day, and then it takes 2 days to implement it at your company. But what I do want to do is just touch on a couple highlights just to give you a taste of what scaling up is about, okay? People. Question for you, are all the stakeholders happy and engaged at the business? And would you rehire all of them? Raise your hand, I'd rehire everybody in my company. I see some smiles, but no hands. Oh, one hand, awesome. You're a sole entrepreneur, aren't you? Right?
No, there's 2 people.
Oh, all right, okay.
One of them's sitting right there.
All right. That's a touchy one, right? That's like, how happy are you in your marriage, right? That's one of those questions you just don't ask, right? But no, people. In the scaling up process, we have all these tools, and one of them is called Top Grading. Great book. Basically, we ask you to put your team into 4 quadrants. How culturally do they match, and how well do they perform? Do they have a really strong culture and they perform really well? Keep them, get out of their way, give them tools. But what about the people who don't understand your culture and can't execute? What do you think we should do with them? Any ideas?
Release them to their destiny.
Set them free? No, actually, I believe we should coach them up. Again, I believe everybody has greatness in them, except the people who are high producers but choose to do so without your culture. I call them productive jerks. You ever work with a productive jerk? They hit their numbers, particularly in sales, right? My productive jerk when I was growing up was Walter. None of you will ever meet him, so it's no problem. But he caused so much chaos in our business. But he hit his numbers. The CEO is like, leave Walter alone. I'm like, do you know the problems this guy creates? So eventually I got my way. I just had to wait until one of his problems was so severe that even the CEO said, okay, you need to do something. And of course I waited too long, is what the CEO told me, right? But Top Grading is a really powerful tool to help you make sure you have a team of A players. Strategy. Can you simply state your strategy? And is it driving the kind of growth and margins you're looking for? Can anybody in here state their strategy? Anybody willingly do that? For your company, your nonprofit, can anybody just say what your strategy is? Good.
I work with the African Regional Food Bank.
Cool.
Our vision is a thriving community free of hunger.
I love you guys, by the way.
Thank you.
We've been talking over here. When I was the sales trainer at Timken, I used to take I call them young kids because they're younger than my kids, right? All the new grads, we'd go up and do 2 service days. And I'll never forget, we cut cabbage for an entire day. And I couldn't get the smell of cabbage out of my clothes to save my life, right? But yeah, you guys are awesome. But I'm really impressed that you could say your strategy. So many people can't.
It's short and simple, and it connects to the heart of our mission.
It's got to connect to a purpose. Back in the day, again, I'm dating myself. I graduated Kent in like '83 the first time. I want to say we called it a mission. It was very like militaristic, right? Our mission, we're going to go out and conquer the world. No, it's all about purpose. What's your purpose? So we got to work on that strategy. The strategy is actually what unites your entire team. It's what improves engagement. It improves margins. It improves retention, right? Execution. Are all the processes at your company running drama-free? Raise your hands. You know what? We have a drama-free work environment. Not surprising. Most companies I work with have drama. And one of my goals working with CEOs is to give them their life back. You know, CEO is a really lonely job. I've done it twice and I hated it. I love going out and talking to customers. I love coaching up people. But the CEO was a really lonely job. You're all by yourself. You really can't share some of your personal challenges with your team because they might see that as a weakness, right? But the goal is to give your life less drama. And what we talk about is relentless repeatability, systems, processes. Almost everything we do should be broken down into a really specific process that's repeatable and gets better all the time. Cash. Boy, does it take a lot of money to grow a company. Has anybody ever experienced that? It's like, wow, we're growing so much, but Mark, what are you doing? Like there was a local Canton company I was helping, and they're like, Mark, we really need help. We lost our largest customer. Our largest customer represented 33% of revenue. We need you to go out there and get new business. I'm like, no problem, that's easy for me. I've always done it. So within about 6 months, we added 281 new customers. All of a sudden, the owner's granddaughter is like, hey, what are you doing? You're making my life miserable. I'm going to have to add a second shift. I'm going to have to add a third shift. What are you doing? So the reason why I became a scaling up coach is scaling up helps you holistically grow. And one of the things you need to consider is, how am I going to fund that growth? Right? So just keep that in mind. And then strategy. I really love strategy. Do you have people on like LinkedIn? Everybody here on LinkedIn? Did you ever ask somebody to write like a, rank you or give a testimonial for your work? I thought for sure everybody would have said sales. But for me, they said strategy. I'm like, well, that's kind of fun because that's what I love, right? We need to build a strategy to end 2024 strong and, more importantly, position you for rapid growth in the future. And that can be your nonprofit as well. How many people here have a strategic plan? Raise your hands. Okay, we have a couple of people that don't. That's not surprising. My favorite answer, by the way, is, I have a strategic plan. Really? Can I see it? Well, it's up here. Well, if it's not written somewhere, it's really not a plan yet. How many people that have a strategic plan have a one-page plan? One simple document so you know what it is and you use it all the time. So those of you who raised your hands, how long is your strategic plan? Is it like something on okay, it's only 3 pages? That's still awesome. Back in the day, it was in a little white binder, like 3 inches thick, and it'd sit on the back shelf, and you might look at it every 3 years, right? Companies that are rapidly growing look at it weekly, monthly, right? And we help people build those strategic plans. So what's the secret to creating a strategic plan that drives results? What do you think that answer is? If you really want your plan to work, what do you think the way we do that is? What have you seen if you've had a plan that worked? Yes?
Set up action steps, like create that roadmap with timelines of, we want to be here by this time and then move on to here by that time, understanding that it's a living document.
It is, and I really appreciate you saying that it's living, because again, old school, we created this thing. We went up on Mount High, like all the senior executives. They came down from the mountain, they had the tablets, right? They passed out the tablets to certain people, and that was the plan. Now, we do the best we can with what we have to work with. We create a plan, but we're constantly talking, we're constantly having meetings, we're constantly adjusting the plan. And my goal for the people I work with is, you're constantly giving your customers better service. Anybody else? How do you make a great plan? Yeah.
I think it's important for everyone on your team to have a good understanding of the plan
Oh, so true.
and to recognize what parts they're responsible for.
How do I help this plan? Right? Another one that's kind of scary, if you're curious about engagement in your company, ask people, just regular line workers, mid-level managers, how do you know if you had a good day? If they can't give you an answer, you've got an issue. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just realistic too for the strategic plan. Not playing everything right in front. What's realistic in the time frame and what resources it's going to take to get to that at that point. And if it's not, we have to decide to move it up, back, whatever. But just being realistic during the process, like you said, not having a book full of things that aren't going to be done.
I might spend a day with a team just working on culture, because culture is your rules. What's acceptable here? What's not acceptable here? What behaviors do we want and are we going to reward? What behaviors will we not tolerate, right? That's a tough one for some leaders. It takes a whole day sometimes to get through that. But once we get through it, we got to communicate. And I highly recommend like a waterfall strategy. Like, this is our strategy as a company. And it should be very simple, one sentence. But then a good company is going to break it down. For accounting, that means we're going to do this. For finance, that means we're going to do this. Sales, that means we need you to do this, right? Bad strategy is we did $12 million last year, put it into Excel. That means we need to do 13.5. We've got a plan. That's not a plan, that's a financial exercise, right? The key to any good plan, though, is voice of customer work. Does anybody do voice of customer work? You call, you interview your customers, make sure they're happy, find out what their pain points are. Do you do that?
We have just completed a project where part of it was reaching out to our stakeholders. And so we reached out to our members to find out some of their feedback.
What kind of business?
So we're at the Akron Zoo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was talking, what a fantastic job your fella did during the training today on conflict.
Yeah.
I took like 4 pages of notes, right? My granddaughter, she's 4, loves the Akron Zoo, right? It's brilliant. But you've got to talk to the customers. It's like the secret sauce. And later on, I'm actually going to give you examples with dollar impact after we talk to people. So let's update your plans for 2024. Number 1, markets and trends. What's going on in the markets and trends in the lives of the people that you serve? And how can you help them? Make sure we have the right people with the right skills in the right seats. If you have salespeople, let's get them back on track selling. I'm going to share it later, but I do a lot of voice of customer work. And we just finished a job with a large distributor. And what their branch managers just kept saying was, we need to get people selling again. I'm like, help me unpack that. What's going on? Well, during COVID, if you had inventory, you hit your numbers. And all of a sudden, what salespeople started doing was just transactional. You know, I want this part. Okay, book it. I'll ship Tuesday. Boom, hang up the phone, take the next order. They were heroes. I just wrote an article about how we need to create sales muscle memory. You know, if you've ever been in a sport, mine was karate. I loved the football presentation earlier. But I was really pretty terrible in football. I mean, I was like one of the moving dummies, right? Like third string. But karate was my thing. And what I talked about in the article was, if I throw a block, it's still a perfect block today. And I haven't trained in 15 years. Why is that? Well, I had really good instructors, but I probably practiced it 250,000 times. And that's what it's going to take to get really skilled at anything, right? Multiple practices. Understanding your customers today. You really want to build a relationship with your customers? Find out what their goals, passions, and struggles are. Don't try to sell them, right? Just have a meeting one time and just interview them. I remember there was a fella in Iowa, brand new merchandising manager, my largest distributor, and I interviewed him. I said, what are some of your goals? And I expected him to say company goals. He says, oh no, I want to be the VP of merchandising within 2 years. All right, so then my mind started churning. How can I help him get to his goal? And if I'm the only person calling on him that helps him hit his goal, that's got to help my business somehow, right? So ask people what their goals are. Sometimes they'll tell you personal, sometimes they'll tell you professional. Passions. It could be something work-related. It could be a golfer. Again, I'm not great at sports, but my customer at a music chain in Minneapolis, when I would call on Best Buy, I would also go to Musicland. And he was a huge Vikings fan. So I would just check on whatever happened on the Vikings, you know, the day before. I'm like, hey, how about that? Luckily, I didn't read too much of the article because he could have really caught me. But what was your passion and then struggles? Out of those 3, which one would indicate you're actually building a relationship? When they share their goals, their passions, or their struggles? Which one do you think?
Struggles, it shows vulnerability.
Trust too, right?
Yeah.
Why are the 2 reasons people buy and don't buy? What do you think the answer is? There's 2 reasons. It's pretty simple. My whole thing is called No Smoke and Mirrors, if you go to my website. I boil everything down to the simple essence of it. People buy for 2 reasons, trust and competence. Do they trust you and do they think you can do it, right? So what I recommend is if you want to have a really strong end of the year, do an MRI on your business right now. I just hurt my left shoulder. I was telling the health expert who calmed me down before my session, since January I've lost 31 pounds. And I set a big, hairy, audacious goal. Jim Collins talks about that, right? It's called a BHAG. I wanted to lose 70 pounds. So I did this Noom thing, I'm doing this workout thing, but unfortunately I'm going to be 63 in July and I shouldn't be benching what I did at 24. So I tore my shoulder. If I went to the doctor and he said, no problem, Mark, gets out a scalpel, starts cutting me, run. What he did was he did some manipulation, he did an MRI, he did an X-ray, and he says, tell you what, I think we can fix this with some exercises and some meds. If after 8 weeks it doesn't improve, well, yeah, then we're going to do what we got to do, right? Do the same thing for your business. Ask yourself questions like, how happy are our customers? What does the transaction data tell us about our business? Who's a new customer that's now in our top 10 that wasn't even on the radar 6 months ago, right? Start doing some analysis on your business. What are some market trends? If you have salespeople, how effective are they? Really? 50% of salespeople have never been trained. They know product, they know application, but they've never been trained in skills on how to talk to another human being. What does your data tell you? Are we tracking the right things? And then capture the voice of your customer. You do those things, you're going to update your plan, and you're going to be in a much better place at the end of the year. What's happening today? Talk to me. What's happening in your markets? Is there anything happening in some of your markets that is going to cause you to behave differently?
The Department of Labor laws will affect massive amount of nonprofits.
How so?
Because we have to switch our full-time staff to hourly, which will bring in overtime and probably limited hours.
So if I called on you, that's a challenge that you're facing now. And if I could help you with that, I'd probably be raised pretty high as far as people helping you, right?
Oh, for sure.
So the challenge is with your customers, what are they facing? What about global considerations? Is there anything going on globally that could impact our customers today? What do you think? You're going, oh, yeah.
Everything.
Everything, yeah, it's kind of a hot mess.
A lot of unrest, a lot of different points of view.
One of my larger customers makes tiles, very expensive, like I can't even put it in my house, right? But he's out of Canada and he makes these tiles out of this very rare earth that actually comes from Ukraine. Within 3 weeks, he was out of supply. Talk about change your business, right? Luckily, we found a similar earth type material in Italy and we got him up and running within 6 months. What about environmental considerations? Is there any environmental considerations impacting your businesses? Anybody talking about green or electric or sustainability? Is that affecting any of you? Yes? What do you guys do?
We're from Marathon Petroleum,
Oh, well, hello there. Yeah.
so that's definitely affecting our business, the push for electric vehicles. I specifically work in environmental, so
That's got your attention.
yes.
One of my clients, a lot of my clients, because of my plastics background, are plastics companies. And there was a law passed recently in, I think it's New York and a couple other New England states. Surprisingly, not California. They usually start this kind of craziness. But styrofoam meat trays, we can't have them anymore because they found that it would be like a breeding ground for bacteria. Well, my client makes polypropylene meat trays. So their whole world changed when this law went into effect in April. They went from how are we going to do that to how are we going to do this, right? So we got to watch those changes, watch legal and changes and common constraints. What constraint do most of us have today, whether it's a profit or nonprofit business? What do you think that is? What?
Budget.
Budget, what else?
Staffing.
Staffing, there's the one I was looking for. It's almost like I gave you a 5, before the thing. We can't find labor. Most of the people I help are manufacturing companies and service companies. They're telling me stories like, I had 4 people on board, they all showed up. 2 of them left at lunch, I don't know why, they disappeared. 1 of them left afterwards, I never saw him again, and the other one kind of shows up and kind of doesn't show up, right? Talk about a constraint, trained labor. Try to find a welder today, right? One of my clients makes robotic welding machines. And the reason they make robotic welding machines is their machine does the job of 5 welders. It never takes a smoke break. It doesn't go to bike week, right? It just keeps chugging along. He can't make these things fast enough because of this constraint. So the challenge is, what constraints do your customers have? Let's shift gears a little bit. How many people here have salespeople in their business? Woo-hoo, what kind of business?
Software.
Software. Oh, don't get me started. I helped a company that did training for software company product managers. So I spent 6 years in software. What percent of the day do salespeople spend selling? Do you think it's 75%? Anybody? 64%? 45%? That's usually when somebody says, I wish, right? 22%? Yeah, 22%. 22% of their sellable time salespeople are selling today. I think it goes back to the pandemic. You know how like you pick up a bad habit? Mine used to be those like 4 chocolate donuts that you could get at the Speedway, right? It's only 4, but if you have it every time you stop to get a pop, I mean, it's a problem, right? But it becomes a habit. Salespeople are only spending selling time 22%. So what are they doing? They're tracking transactions, they're tracking shipments, they're communicating ship dates, communicating price increases, negotiating short shipments, and taking orders. What's interesting is all of these but communicating price increases are somebody else's job. So what's going on? Well, during COVID, it was all hands on deck. We had to have them do this. They found out this is a lot more fun. This isn't as hard, right? But we've got a team that does all this. So there's really a breach of trust. When we work with teams and we try to scale up teams, we use the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And the bottom of the pyramid is trust. We can't help your team grow fast if there's not a core trust, right? So we need to shift sales focus. For those of you who have sales, does your team have the skills to execute? How many people say 100% of our team have the skills to execute? 70% of our salespeople have the skills to execute. 50. 30. The answer when I spoke to just CEOs in Denver not long ago was 20 to 30%. 20 to 30% of our team have the skills to execute the plan. Okay, let me get this straight. So you and all the guys and gals went to Mount High, you wrote a plan, and you know that 70% of your team can't execute it? And then you get frustrated because the board is upset that you didn't hit your plan? That's kind of a little goofy, isn't it? So what you don't have to do anymore is guess. There's all kinds of wonderful assessments out there, right? There's an engagement assessment, which I think you just mentioned. This is a sales assessment. I just helped a team of 69 salespeople, pharmaceutical company. And what they wanted to know was, what are our skills and where do we need to be trained? Very quickly, the data told us, good news, you've got a team of hunters. They're scoring 80% out of 100. Bad news, they don't understand consultative selling. They're not qualifying people. Therefore, everybody that they quote, they believe is going to be an order. So it shows up in their forecast, and your CFO's at a board meeting and says you're going to hit X and you hit half of it, right? But look at closing skills. 67% of salespeople struggle with closing. So no matter what business you're in, at some point you're going to have to ask for something. There's 2 reasons why people don't close. One is mindset. Oh, if I ask for it, I'll seem pushy. And the other is skill. I've never been taught how to do it. So I actually have a whole course on closing skills. So my recommendation is, if you have a sales team, figure out what they're good at, figure out where their gaps are, and let's prescribe training and coaching to bring them up so they can execute your plan. The other point I like to make is there's dollars in your data if you know where to look. How many people here have a ton of data at work? Right, mountains of it. Again, another sign that my kids are grown. What I read recently was we've created more data in the last 3 years than what we've created in every year before. So the issue isn't data. The issue is, how do I turn this data into something insightful that I can act on, right? We don't want people becoming librarians, spending hours and hours trying to figure something out. We want actionable data. When I talk to CEOs and CFOs, I always ask them, are you making enough profit? What do you think they say? Huh? No. Even nonprofits are saying no, right? One of the quickest ways we can help you make more profit is called the whale curve. This is supposed to look like the back of a whale. And it's kind of disturbing how this happens no matter what company I try to help. What we do is we look at your sales, we look at your profits, then we add in the cost of sale. What are you doing to get that business? Well, there's the cost of the rep, there's cost of the travel, there's cost of the airplane, there's cost, right? I don't want you to do activity-based costing. I don't want you to capture 64 things. I want to pick the top 12. And what we find is 20% of your customers represent 200% of your profits. My guess is the Akron Food Bank, if we looked at it, 20% of the people that give represent 80% of the bottom line. I might be wrong, but typically this is the number, right? You're going to get two things out of that. One, be thankful that these people are around. But second, they become your ideal customers. Look at the money I'm making on these folks. What characteristics do they all have in common? How do I find more people that look and act like them, right? The middle group, it's break even. After you add in the cost of sale with what you just charged them, you break even. But look at the one on the right. 20% of your business loses 50% of the profits. I was helping a very large distributor recently, and his third largest customer, after we did the analysis, he would have been better off putting a $5 bill in a box and shipping it than the parts. But the data doesn't lie, people do, right? So if you find that you've got profit leaking accounts, there's about 5 ways to fix it. And typically, once we know who they are, we can teach your team how to fix it, and we can fix it usually in about 3 months. You'll see a lift between 3 and 5% in gross profit. So there's dollars in your data. So the theme is, we don't have to guess. We don't have to count on what's always worked around here. That's a phrase that I keep hearing when I meet with CEOs. My grandfather, well, your grandfather didn't have a cell phone. Come on, work with me, right? We can use data. And then the last one is, could an outdated assumption about your customers be stalling your growth? So nonprofits have customers, right? The Y has customers, right? Could it be, the Y, scary number, right? Back when I was in Indian Guides, now that's before time began, right? The Y, guys didn't wear bathing suits.
What?
Oh yeah, look at the look of disgust on her face, right? No, it was like a guy thing, and you just jumped in the water, right? If you would run your business with the assumption of that back then, what a mistake that would be. Well, my argument is, what if everybody's doing that mistake because we haven't taken the time to understand what people need today? Local company here in Canton, I'm not going to say their name, they came to me and said, look, we need some help. I'm like, cool. And I was doing my analysis. I call it versions of the truth. I talk to the CEO, they say one thing. I talk to the leaders, they say something else. I talk to the line workers, they say something else, and I talk to their customers. Somewhere in there is the truth, right? I tend to lean towards customers. Well, the CEO told me we're the only one in the country doing this particular product. That's why I asked 70% gross margin. And he was really proud of that. I'm like, how's that product doing? Well, it's funny you should say that. We've been losing sales every week. Okay, I went out, talked to his customers. 4 other people in the country are doing it now. And not only are they doing it, they're doing it at about 30% less. So as we interviewed them, they said, well, not only did we switch the business to this other guy, but it made me wonder if everything else I'm buying from them was priced too high. So it helped us strategically adjust the company. What do we need to know? If you want to do it yourself, by the way, I'm not giving out books, but I'll leave them up here. In the book, I give you some examples of questions that you can ask. But what we really want to know is, why do they buy from you? Why don't they buy from you? What is their buying process today? One of the quickest ways to be seen as a pushy salesperson is to make a pitch at the wrong time. A buying process typically starts with, oh boy, I do have a problem. I'm going to educate myself about how to solve the problem. I'm going to find 4 or 5 people that can solve the problem. I'm going to pick 2 and then pick 1, right? But just imagine if your salesperson goes in for the close when all they want is education. You are a pushy salesperson. So the burden is on us as salespeople to just ask, where are you at in the buying process? Have you looked at other fitness centers? Where are you at? Well, I'm down to the Y in the Cleveland Clinic. Okay, let me tell you why I think the Y is better or whatever, right? But if they're in the education process, I'd hand them a brochure, I'd give them a tour, you understand what I'm saying. What criteria do they need to make a purchase? Helping another company, they're like, wow, Mark, we've always wanted to sell Cummins engines. I'm like, cool, turn me loose, let's go. And she was a tough buyer. Her name was Maria Petrosa. And what I found was a key requirement, criteria to sell them was you had to clean your part before you shipped it, which makes sense. They sell these $100,000 engines, right? A little piece of debris could blow up an engine. Now that we knew that, we created a process, we cleaned the parts, we put a certificate on it, we won the business. What goals, challenges? We already talked about that. Satisfaction and net promoter score. What's a net promoter score? Does anybody know?
We use the 360 to get a net promoter score.
And what does it tell you?
What it tells us? It tells us of those who are certified and answered the survey, how satisfied, if they would return to our business.
And would they refer others to your business? And are they promoters or detractors? What's a detractor?
Anybody who scores a 6 or below.
And what does that mean?
That means that they have a high probability of walking out the door.
And telling 30 people, not 5, how unhappy they were.
Yeah.
The time to find them is before they leave.
Correct.
One of my clients in Kentucky, we did this. Somebody on their top 4 customers ended up being a detractor. And boy, that was hard to tell the CEO, right? That's like telling somebody their baby's ugly, right? Somebody's got to do it, right? I wrote a post once, here's a banana for your baby, right? But no, I had to tell this CEO, and he's like emotionally devastated. He says, we've served those people. My dad, when he owned the business, he served those people. He said that? I'm like, yeah. To his credit, he jumped in a car, drove 6 hours with the VP of sales. Not only did they save it, now they're doing more business. But the time to save it is before they leave. Why do you think that is?
Because the chance of them coming back is lower.
And if they do come back, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
It is.
So let's save it beforehand. That's the power of Voice of Customer. Here's what's happening. 33% of people are choosing not to work with a salesperson at all today. Why do you think that is? How about you? Do you love going to a car lot? Never again. Why?
Carvana, I don't even have to talk to anybody.
Why wouldn't you want to go to a regular car lot?
The amount of resources, it sucks up my whole entire day.
Right?
It's like all this back and forth. It is so, the experience is not fun. It is very cumbersome and awful. I'd like rather go to the dentist than buy a car.
That's number 3 on the list. Car salesman, dentist, and lawyer were the top 3 worst buying experiences. You had something to say?
It's the finance people at the car dealership.
Now we're getting personal. You don't know if somebody's in finance.
Because once you get there, you got this whole thing agreed on with the salesperson, who has to go talk to the finance person 5 times, talk to the GM 5 times, and then 2.5 hours later, you finally come down to a number at the finance, and then they go to the finance desk, and then the finance desk changes the numbers on you, and you're like, clear coat protection, RNA, what?
You feel there's a breach of trust.
And then if they go to a certain bank, they give more compensation versus the bank that I want them to go to. It's just a disaster. So online, it can be more straightforward, and I can read through it, and I don't have to explain to you that I know my credit rating should be X and not Y because you're trying to make money on this end.
So
It's a disaster.
it's not buyer friendly. It's pretty, a little emotion happening here. You should have done the breathing class.
I know. You keep telling.
I think she left some of her cards right here. Now here's the deal. Salespeople have been behaving badly for so long that buyers have said enough. I don't need them. I can self-shop. I can self-serve. 33%. But here's what, when I interview buyers, and it's fun because in the sales in the CRM it says, we lost the account because of price. Never. Maybe 3rd on their list is price. What they say is, I want human-to-human authentic conversations. I don't want to feel manipulated. I want them to be real. I don't want to hear a canned pitch, right? I call it pitch slapping. Have you ever heard that phrase? Hopefully there's nobody in HR in here. Here's pitch slapping, right? It's 5 o'clock. It's one of the rare times I get to sit with my grandkids, have dinner, and my phone rings. By the way, I'm a Verizon customer. It's Verizon. trying to sell me Verizon. And I don't think the person even took a breath. They immediately start pitching. They didn't ask me a question. They're pitch. So what I do, because I'm an ornery sales trainer, is, this is very interesting. Could you tell me more? And I set it down and I have my dinner, right? How long did that person talk? 20 minutes, right? Don't pitch slap your customers. I need an industry expert, a consultant to help me solve my problems. Every time we talk to somebody now, they're hungry for that. Give me stuff that's not on your website. Vern Harnish, who wrote the book, he made a comment once at one of our conferences. Developing a strategy without market insights is criminal. So if you've developed a strategic plan without including your customer's voice, there's a high probability it's not a good plan. But you can still fix that before the end of the year. All right, Mark, you've been talking an awful lot, but talk to me about results. This is the new CEO of Lyft. You all know who Lyft is. It's kind of like an Uber, but pink, right? The first thing he did was he gets certified to drive a Lyft car. And he started driving people around. And he started casually asking them questions. He found an unmet market need. Female passengers would prefer a female driver. So he put a system in place so you can request the sex of your driver. Sales went through the roof. Now I promise you Uber is going to do the same thing, but he's going to keep gathering information. I give him credit. Here's one that I did back in the day. I'm dating myself. Does everybody know what a compact disc was? Okay. I asked a question once when I was training the young people at Timken. They said, have you ever met anybody famous? I'm like, yeah, I met Alice Cooper in Argentina one time. He was down there for a concert. I actually had breakfast with him. He's a believer. He's a great golfer. And anyways, I'm ruining the story because they said, well, who's she? Compact discs came out. If you remember, they came out about this big. Theft was 25 to 30%, right? I'm a plastics manufacturer. What my competitor did was they made one sample, they wrapped a letter around it, they put a rubber band on it, and they mailed it to God and everybody, right? Our CEO, to his credit, is, I'll bet you everybody has different needs. Get out there on the road, Mark, start meeting with people. I got to meet the president of Sony Music, loss prevention people, merchandising people, record chains, Walmart. Sure enough, there was 3 needs. Once we identified the 3 needs and the 3 things that they wanted, we sold 100 million packages at 50% margin in 12 months. We doubled the company in 1 year. That's what voice of the customer can do for you, right? Today, I don't know if you've ever seen this device. It's called a spider wrap. I see somebody smiling. They even have them at Kohl's. Not that I go to Kohl's, don't judge me. But this was a customer, Walmart, saying, you know what? If you could fix CDs, could you also fix the other stuff people steal? Well, sure, what's going on? And they gave us this laundry list of all this stuff they had locked behind the counter. Well, if it's behind the counter, sales are 70% less because they don't have the labor to open the counter. So we're like, how do we develop a device that fits all these different sizes? And luckily, we had a brilliant engineer that came over from Rubbermaid, and he designed this package. You'll still see this out there today. That security division went on to be sold for $80 million, just because of our innovation and how we listen to the marketplace. One of my favorite jobs of all time. Have you ever seen one of these vans where people in wheelchairs can drive again? Right? It was a favorite. That's the company that brought me to Arizona for 10 years. After we sold the plastics company, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and a private equity guy reached out and says, hey, I understand you like to grow companies. How about moving to Arizona? I'm like, hey, I want to retire out there. That's not a hard decision, right? I go there. They were stuck at 14 million for about 5 years. And the first thing I did was I went out and started talking to people in wheelchairs. Turns out there's all different types of people in wheelchairs. There's quadriplegics, paraplegics. There's people that are less abled. There's parents with children. They all have different needs. But what really shocked me was I asked them, why did you buy our van? Well, it's quiet. What? If you look at this picture, the ramp disappears into the floor. All the competitors' ramps came up in the door and rattled when you drove. So you couldn't even have a conversation, let alone listen to the radio. So we started telling people, take a quiet ride. We also learned, when we did the voice of customer, fella up in Howe Road in Akron, of all places, he says, you guys aren't all that smart. Really? Yeah, he says, what you ought to do is convert used cars and take down some of that retail. We're folks in wheelchairs, man. We have about 25% less disposable income. Didn't know that. What if you converted used cars, lowered the price, and sold more of us? You know, you get on the airplane, you're like, you know, that is such a great idea. There's got to be a reason why we're not doing it. No, there wasn't. Today, 70% of vans sold are used vehicles converted. That company, we went from 1 shift to 2 shifts. Sales were going 150% year over year. They went from 14 million to 89 million in 6 years, just by talking to the customers. Now, did I get the credit for the great ideas? Of course. But no, I just asked the questions, right? So the question I'd like to leave with you is, how are you going to make it easier to be a customer and harder to be one of your competitors? What could you do that we talked about today? Can you make sure your salespeople have skills? And even the Y has salespeople, right? Whoever helps people with new memberships, right, can be trained. Should we do voice of customer research? Talk to people that just came on, talk to people we've had for years, talk to people who left us. Those are the folks that are brutally honest, by the way. Now, I like doing it because I'm a third party. I don't have a relationship with them. Who do you think should never do voice of customer work? The person who calls on them. Because they're worried, right? Just like the person that's calling on them is worried about sharing the truth, the customer's worried that they're going to hurt the relationship, so they don't tell them the truth, right? And sometimes when I do voice of customer work, it's the salesperson that's the problem. They said I'd have a quote by Friday. I didn't get it till the following Thursday. Wow, does that happen often? It happens all the time. I can't tell you how many orders you guys have lost. Whoa. But in the CRM, it says we lost because of price. No, that's not the real why. So once we get to the real why, we can grow your company. Scaling Up's a great book. Highly recommended if you're a profit, nonprofit, manufacturer, service business. We've helped over 1,000 companies worldwide. If you have more questions on it, give me a holler. I'm on LinkedIn. Mark Allen Roberts, by the way, not the streaker. And I want to leave you with 4 myths. When I try to help companies grow, the people that's my ideal customer, by the way, is somebody that wants to really grow. I don't mean like 2% a year. I mean like 20% year over year, 30% year over year. That's what's like addicting to me. It's fun. It's not work, right? It's like a sport. I hear size matters. Only large companies can outperform in uncertain times. Has anybody heard that? It's not true. I've helped a lot of different companies grow, even in uncertain times. Customers must either choose profit or growth. Has anybody heard that before? I see you going, uh-huh. How about anybody over here? Anybody heard that? We can't grow and increase profits. Has anybody ever heard that before? It's simply not true. Alpha, when we started, we were a commodity company back in the day. I'm dating myself. We used to rent, okay, I'll talk to you. We used to rent videos. They were this square thing, right? And you had to put them in a plastic box. Well, we made the plastic boxes for 32 cents each. Not very sexy, right? But all of a sudden, we started asking questions. And all of a sudden, libraries started letting people have videos for free. But libraries were getting their boxes smashed in the book drop boxes. So we invented new products. And all of a sudden, we listened to the market and we grew, right? Extraordinary growth only possible in high growth industries with big tailwinds. What would you think is a high growth industry today with a big tailwind? What do you think? What? Computer chips. We're getting a huge plant down in Columbus, right? Defense, missile systems. Sorry, it is what it is. We can't make the parts fast enough for that. Is our population getting younger or older? Anybody that makes a product that serves older people, rapid growth right now, right? So only if I'm in one of those industries can I have rapid growth. Wrong. We've helped companies grow no matter what industry they're in, even if they're a nonprofit. A church actually executed scaling up better than most for-profit companies. Once a low-growth company, always a low-growth company. Have anybody heard that before? This is the one I hear when I come in after somebody bought a company or the son, grandson, granddaughter took over the business. We've always been a slow-growth company. We're not ever going to change. It's like Eeyore, right? No. It's a mindset. You know, a thought becomes a belief and then it becomes action. If you really believe that, then you'll justify that thought every day. Let's shake that up a little bit. Let's talk to your customers. Let's figure out what your competitors are doing. Let's find unmet market needs, and let's grow your company. So, the no smoke and mirrors approach to ending the year stronger as opposed to strong. Know your markets and current trends. There's a huge problem with labor. If you can help your customers with labor, you're going to get their attention. Right people, right seats. I can't tell you how many companies I work with where somebody's in a leadership position because they've been there 30 years, but not because they have the skills. Now, my first advice is figure out what skills they do have, where do you want them to be, and get them training. It's not a problem, right? Understand your customers today. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from this today is, I want to go out and I'm going to talk to some customers, even at the Y as they're walking through the lobby. Hey, did you have a good workout today? How did you find the access to the machines? I'm making this up, but roll with me, right? Was the locker room clean? Or did you find a bunch of towels laying around? What would you do better? If you were the president of this location, what would you do better so you would tell your whole family to join? It'd blow your mind what people will tell you. It's in the book, by the way. And then strategy based on customers and market insights and trends. Make sure whatever the strategy is your team is executing, everybody knows it, like the Akron Food Bank clearly knows their strategy. And then what role do I play? I've always been like the VP of sales and marketing. It was pretty clear, charge the mountain, don't be afraid. No, we're not going to give you any weapons or shields, just charge the mountain, right? But it was very clear what I had to do. How much growth is going to come from current customers? That's organic. How much business is going to come from new customers, new markets, new products? Are we going to have a growth through acquisition strategy? Have all that ironed out. And then teach your people what their role is. And boil it down so it's so simple. It's like, here's what I need you to do. I've been following your sales. You have a 50% close rate. I need you to hit X. That means I need you to make 75 phone calls a week. I need you to close X amount. Make it so simple that they can measure it. So when they go home at night, they can celebrate if they've had a good day or not. Here's one that I always love. I spoke at a couple events, the CEO events when I lived in Arizona, and a guy comes up to me at the break and he says, hey, boy, that sounds like an awful lot of work and a waste of time. Well, let's assume it's a lot of work, because running a successful business is a lot of work. But the good news is your shareholder value goes up. You bless your employees with more money. They send their kids off to college. You bless the community with more tax dollars. When you grow a company, all kinds of good things happen. It's not just for you, right? But here's what happens. If you follow the steps, the 4 or 5 steps that I gave you, you're going to see profits increase. You're going to have an engaged, focused team because they know what their job is and they know what their role is. You're going to increase market share if you ever want to exit your business someday, which a lot of the people in Northeast Ohio come to me today, manufacturers in particular. I'm in my late 60s, 70s. My kids don't want the business, which shocks me, right? My kids didn't want my business. That's why I sold it. What am I going to do? Give me 2 to 3 years. We're going to increase your market share. We're going to increase your gross margins. We're going to show a positive trend in revenue. We're going to diversify your portfolio of accounts. And oh, by the way, what company is more valuable, where the CEO works 18 hours a day or 18 hours a week? What do you think? A week. Why?
Because then it shows that the person that owns it doesn't have to work quite as hard?
Because they've created systems, processes. If that person goes away after the sale, the business is going to be healthy. You tell me that, oh, I'm so proud, I work 20 hours a day. Oh, you know what? you just stepped on your multiple. I'm only going to pay X multiple of EBITDA now. Improve sales effectiveness. Real quick, if you have a sales team, assess their skills, train them. You don't have to hire me. Send them on YouTube to take training if that's what you have to do if you don't have a training budget. But improve customer satisfaction and experience. Doing so much voice of customer work, customers are so hungry to be treated well. It's like disturbing, right? I do voice of customer work. I just finished a job for John Deere, totally opposite. These people are raving fans. I'm talking like, I'm sure they have like tattoos somewhere, right? When we interview these people, I love John Deere. Really, why do you love him? And they keep talking, and I've only got 9 minutes with them. And then there's the other side of the coin. I call somebody up, how's it going? Well, talk to me, what's going on? And we have a list of questions to determine satisfaction. Their satisfaction's around 60%. Well, what could we do to improve, and it's usually simple stuff. Make your website easier to navigate. Do what you say you're gonna do. If you tell me it's gonna ship on Thursday, I plan my production based on Thursday, ship it on Thursday. And oh, by the way, if you're not gonna ship it on Thursday, tell me Tuesday, not Thursday, right? Simple stuff, but talk to your customers. In the pamphlet that you got, one of the tools we use as coaches from scaling up is called the Rockefeller Habits. And it's really great questions that high performance teams need to ask themselves. If it's too small, I didn't realize the pamphlet would be so small, contact me and send you a PDF that you can print. But questions like, the executive team is healthy and aligned. Members understand each other's differences, priorities, and styles. Wow, that sounds like one of the trainings we did today, right? And you just go through here and check which ones has your team accomplished and which ones are things you want to work on. Communication rhythm is established and information moves throughout the organization accurately and quickly. Have you ever worked someplace where there are all these politically incorrect secrets, right? I helped a company once, and again, telling them their baby's ugly. But I did this analysis, and their website didn't even rank, because I can do what I call a digital footprint audit. How does your website rank? What are the keywords? Are you on the first page or the 12th page? Stuff like that. So I did the analysis, and they weren't even found like on 20 pages. So I'm sitting in this meeting with this family-run business, and I had to tell the CEO, and I said, your website visually is very appealing, but it's not working. It's a virtual brochure. And he got angry. Well, here his daughter did it while she was off at college, right? That's one of those things you probably need to check on before you say it. Employees can articulate the following key components of the company's strategy. What is our big, hairy, audacious goal? I tell people it's easier to grow a company 10x than it is 2x. People are like, huh? That can't be. If I asked you to grow your company 2x, you're probably going to give me a list of 30 things you need to do. But something happens in your brain. Like I just helped a company up in Cleveland, they make ball valves. They said, well, we're at 17 million, but we want to be 100 million in 5 years. I'm like, okay. Something happens in your brain, and all of a sudden it's like 3 big things. And if we do those things, we're going to grow. So again, talking about things that matter. Company plans and performance is visible to everyone. My advice is if you're going to publish data, don't publish financial data, because most people have not had business acumen courses. We're making 32%, line workers. I knew it. They're taking all the profits. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's gross. After we take out benefits, after we take out hourly, after we take out, we're happy if it's, 15%, we're thrilled even if it's 13%, right? Oh. So make sure that if you give them data, maybe it's top line sales, maybe it's customer satisfaction, quality, things like that. Track the things that matter, make it visible everywhere, and communicate it. How about questions? I'm trying to get on time here. Any questions? I covered a lot. What I want to do is help you guys tune up your strategy. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to kind of, I don't know if you knew this about me, but I used to be in sales and I sold digital advertising. One of my best friends used to be on the team I traveled around with. He didn't get properly trained. They rushed him to be trained. He was an expert in selling some things, but knew nothing about other things.
Right.
He was still in the top 25% of salespeople, but our quota expansion was so aggressive, he kept getting written up. Now he's in the top 25 sellers, 25%. They fired him.
Yep.
So he went to work for another company, competing company, and they trained him up. He's now in the top 10%. That company bought the old company and fired everyone. So in the end, the company that treated him right grew.
Yep.
The company that didn't treat him right is dead. You can't even find them anywhere. They don't exist anymore. So it's an interesting idea about investing in your employees and listening to them and treating them right and training them up before they send them out into the world to take that extra time, because it was only a couple of weeks.
Well, and the assessment part makes it so that even if you have a big ego like you have to have as a salesperson, because you're going to get rejection more than you're going to get people buying. I actually teach a course on rejection proof. You want to have some fun? Google YouTube rejection proof. It's a guy that set out to be rejected on purpose for 100 times. He went into Dunkin' Donuts. He says, hey, could you make me a donut in the shape of the Olympic rings? He wanted her to say no. And she said, well, let me talk to my manager. Manager comes over. Okay, that sounds like fun. He's like, oh. All right, well, can you make each donut the color of the Olympic ring? Waiting for her to say no. Okay. Oh, all right, how much is this going to be? The manager says, it's so much fun, I'll do it for free. That got 3 million YouTubes. He goes up to Burger King. He says, I'd like a burger refill, please. What? A burger refill. You know, you give me a Coke refill, give me a burger refill. No. Well, why not? Because we don't. Rejection number 1. I've been doing this so long, I don't want to say I don't care when you reject me, but I expect it, right? I've been trained on how to handle objections. I've been trained on how to deal with any kind. The sale doesn't start till they say no. But to your credit, that poor salesperson wasn't trained. And I promise you, to have an edge in sales, you almost have to act like you know about stuff that you don't know. Because if you don't know, they're going to go to somebody else that knows, and then you're going to lose the commission. Shame on them. When I was a trainer at Timken, I high-fived Timken every day. They sent me to Harvard to learn how adults learn. 6 months. They won't let you call on a customer. For 6 months, they train. $76,000 they invest in every one of their new people. Every 6 months, we'd have 18 new people. I give them credit, though. They understand the value of their brand. They're investing in the future. These people grow and they go up through the ranks, right? But 50% of salespeople out there right now are winging it. They're showing up and they're throwing up. They believe if they fill the void of the time, the buyer, I call it buyer and benefit, feature and benefit bingo. They keep saying stuff to the point where the buyer jumps up and yells, bingo, I understand how you can help me now. That doesn't happen, right? Any other questions? Okay, I gave you some free stuff. Here's some links. There's a link to my book, my blog. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. My website is No Smoke and Mirrors. If you want to find me, just Google Fix Sales Problems. It's #1 website in the world. I'm pretty proud of that. I wrote a couple papers. There's a new type of salesperson coming up through the ranks called a fisherman. A fisherman takes a digital lead and reels it in. Whole different skill set. So be aware of that. There's also a bad behavior, I'm calling it the babysitter. That happened post-COVID. Not selling, not trying to win new business, not upselling, not cross-selling. They're just waiting for the phone to ring. Those people are going to be replaced by AI. I also wrote a book, a little white paper on Sales Training Reimagined. What does good training look like? I'll tell you what bad training is, one and done. Have you ever gone to a training where like you go for a day and you were supposed to like be holistically changed, right? What % of that training are you going to forget in 24 hours? What do you think? What's the number? 90. But if I ask you to apply it, if I give you some homework, if I refresh and make you watch the video again, the number goes significantly better, right? So I wrote a paper on how to do really good training. And then also, if you'd like to know if your organization can scale, as a scaling up coach, I have all this fun stuff to play with. Until June 1st, if you go to that link, maybe use your phone, take a picture of it, you'll have a free assessment. It'll tell you, will you scale? And if you're not going to scale, what's your challenge? Is it people, strategy, execution, or cash? So I hope that helps everybody in the room, right? Even the nonprofits, it's like, what's our limitation? Once we know our constraint, we can fix it. When you bring your constraint into the light of day and your whole team starts talking about it, magic happens. When we hide it and pretend it doesn't exist, that's when we just can't grow very fast. Did everybody get the link that they wanted? And that's it for me. So I hope this was beneficial. Let's get stronger. The burden is on us to get stronger every day. And let's have a strategy and make our strategy stronger so we end 2024 strong and we go into 2025 strong. Thanks. And